By considering all the steps we have learned, that is 1 to 8, all these 8 steps, 8 important points are one particular step in my point of view. As per my knowledge is concerned, this is one of the crucial step, the pre-test. All 8 points are one step. The pre-test is one step. That is the importance of this particular pre-test. The pre-test is one such very crucial step in conducting any kind of sample survey. In conducting any kind of sample survey, it guides the entire sample survey. It guides what to do and what not to do, how to prepare ourselves to ask the questions, and how to ask the question, what are the methods and what are the precautions we should take in asking the question in the questionnaire. What are the practical difficulties in asking the questions and how to overcome, and what are the measures to be taken in the best method of asking the questions, in the best way of asking the questions. These are all can be answered. What not everything. Any kind of difficulty can be overcome by doing this particular pre-test. Simply trying out questionnaire on a small scale before going to the field work leads to solve many number of problems involved in the conduction of the sample survey. That is particularly asking the questions and getting the information from the respondents. And this is the very, very crucial step in conducting the sample survey to get and to obtain more accurate results with most effectively. That is the pre-test. That is the pre-test. The next point, organization of fieldwork. After conducting the pre-test, after preparation of the questionnaires and after tried the questionnaires once before going to the fieldwork, that is pre-test, after conducting the pre-test, then we have to see how to organize the fieldwork. The entire results of the survey depends on this particular more reliable field work. How do we organize the field work most effectively, which solves various several problems and ultimately give the more accurate results? You see the points here. The results of the survey depends on how best and accurate the information is collected. Absolutely. For which the information from the respondents obtained best by the organizing the field work properly. We can get the information from the respondents the best. We can obtain the information from the respondents by organizing a proper field work. If you organize the field work properly, then you will get the best information from the respondents. To achieve this, the investigators should be thoroughly trained in some of the aspects. 1. In locating the sample units. 2. In recording the measurements. 3. The method of collection of required data. This is all to be done before the field work. Before the field work, that is the only one and only one option is the pre-test, which all to be done properly can be effectively done is all the points: recording the measurements, method of collecting the information, which all can be answered properly if you do the pre-test, if you conduct the pre-test, which answered many number of questions. I have pointed out very clearly in the point of the pre-test, and they should thoroughly trained in locating the sample units as well. The investigators should thoroughly trained in locating the sample units. Where are the sample units? They should not have any confusion. We should give, the organizers should give a proper training, should give proper guidance how to locate the sample units easily. The way you have to guide, the way you have to give a clear picture about the sample units, where are the certain sampling units which are, and how to locate it. So this is one of the important point. And recording the measurements, how to record the measurements, how to note down how to take the certain measurements with ease, in simple manner, which are all the crucial points. And the method of collecting the required data, for which all these points you have to give a proper training to the investigator. And then the success of the survey depends on more reliable field work. The field work depends on entire field work depends on the investigators. So therefore, the investigators are trained. After getting proper training, after giving the proper training to the investigators, the success of the survey depends on most reliable field work. That's very, very important. If it is the field work, it is finished properly, organized properly, it is more reliable, then it is more reliable. For this particular point of view, to organize the field work properly, it is also essential to have an adequate supervisory staff, which means whatever the trained investigators are collecting the information, to collect the information most effectively and consistently, it can be done by the proper adequate supervisory staff, by appointing supervisory staff, and the staff, some staff, selected, trained staff, if they supervise how the investigators are collecting the information, and at each and every step of collecting the information, if you supervise those investigators, then we get the information properly. So this is called organization of field work. Another important point of organization of field work is nothing but we have to appoint adequate supervisory staff. At every particular step we have to supervise whether how effectively the investigators are collecting the information, whether they are doing properly or not, whether they are collecting the relevant information, the essential information. So these all the things can be done properly by appointing supervisory staff to inspect, to examine how the field work is going on. So to inspect the field work, the supervisory staff must be appointed. And if this is done, then definitely we get whatever the essential information can be obtained, and so that it gives the more accurate results. So that is the reason why the results of the survey depends on how accurate the information is collected. It depends on how best you are organizing the field work. It depends on how best you are organizing your organization, organizing the field work. So this is also one of the important point. The next point, selection of proper sampling design. After collecting the information, there are number of designs are available for the selection of a sample and to estimate the population parameters with uncertainty. If there are any particular population parameters which are going to be estimated with some particular uncertainty, which means not known, not a certain particular figure is obtained, it is going to be considered regarding the population parameters, population values, population, for example, population mean, population variance, etc., which are not available, then we have to go and estimate. Also, there are some sampling methods to collect a sample. Before going to the field work, before going to the conduction of the sample survey, the very first one or 2 points after objectives, second point, population to be sampled, etc. There we have to select a sample for which we have separate methods. We have learned some particular sampling techniques called, which kind of sampling technique is going to be considered. A simple random sampling technique or stratified random sampling technique. The which kind of method to select a sample, which is also to be in advance, to be finished in advance before conducting the sample survey. To select a sample, what are the methods? That is my point. To select a sample, what are the methods? You have to select one such a suitable sampling method, and then to estimate the population parameters, we have to select a suitable design. The number of sampling designs are available. We have to select the most suitable sampling design to be selected to increase and the precision, to increase the precision. Precision, what is the meaning of precision? it is inverse of or reciprocal of the variance. It is reciprocal of variance. If variance increased, pressure decreases. If variance decreases, the pressure increases. So the variation in the data, it is to be decreased so that pressure will be increased. So the most suitable design is to be selected to increase the precision involving the cost and time considerations. So we have to select a most suitable design to increase the precision in consideration of the cost and time points, in consideration of time and cost. So this is the point selection of proper sampling design. We have to select one such proper sampling design, most suitable sampling design in consideration with the cost and time, and also to estimate certain population parameters with efficient manner. With most efficient manner, we have to select suitable sampling design. This is another point. Now come to the part, 12th point, summary and analysis of the data. Summary and analysis of the data. What do we do first here? In which whatever the collected information from the schedules or the questionnaires should be thoroughly scrutinized. Which are to be thoroughly scrutinized? Whatever the collected data, the information which was collected from the sample respondents, which are to be thoroughly scrutinized. Data is going to be examined. To examine the plausibility and consistency of the data, we have to examine whether it is a right information is given by the respondent or not, whether they are within the parameters specified by that particular subject experts, which are specified in the questionnaire. These are to be examined. That is, what is the consistency of the data? How the answer is reliable to the question, whether it is reliable, whether it is consistent. These are to be examined. So which means the collected information which is to be thoroughly scrutinized, the first, and then edit the data. That is, whichever the inconsistent data which is to be eliminated, and we have to note some kind of errors. Is there any kind of error involves either in recording the measurements or in providing the information by the respondent, and we have to rectify it. The best, we have to rectify it. That is called editing the data. First we have to scrutinize, and then we have to edit the data, and then we have to tabulate the data, which is necessary for quick and easy reference of the variables under study. If you want to refer the variables quickly, just by seeing you should not read the entire information. You should not go through all the pages which the data was provided, data was collected and provided. Just by simply seeing the table, referring the table, we can easily identify the variables. And what are the characters of the variable, the measurements of the variable, which all going to be identified in simply by quickly referring the table. We can easily identify what are the variables are present, what are the measurements of that particular variables, whether it is what and how it is going to be taken, and which are all can be discussed and identified from the tabulation. And then we can decide what kind of questions are going to be deleted because of some particular non-response of any non-response is there. Even though it was tabulated, but we can eliminate from the table. This is what the tabulation gives a clear picture about the entire data in a particular simple table, in a simple fashion. We can easily identify everything regarding a particular population characteristic, what we have collected the information. The 3 points we have learned: scrutinize the data, edit the data, tabulation of the data. Editing the data, tabulation of the data. The 3 points we have learned. Now you see, now we have to select for a suitable statistical tools to analyze the data. That is, the 4th point is analyze the data. For which different methods of estimation are available for some particular data. For same data, many number of techniques are available. A relevant and appropriate method which is suitable to the data, which should be used to provide the best estimates to reduce the errors in the data. We have to select one such efficient technique, statistical methods, which should be suitable to the data, more appropriate and more relevant to the data, which are to be considered. Such methods statistical methods are going to be considered to estimate the population parameters, to analyze the population characteristics. For all these, you have to select suitable statistical tools which are to analyze the data. So the 4th point is analyze the data. What are the 4 points? Scrutinize the data, edit the data, tabulation of the data, and analyze the data. Analyze statistical by using the statistical methods, suitable statistical methods. Scrutiny, editing, tabulation, and analysis, statistical analysis. The 4th point. These are the 4 points in the analysis of the data. To analyze any particular data, we have to do all these after collecting the information. We have to do all these 4 important points. And finally, at the end, you have to give a report which should be prepared in detail of different stages of the survey. What are the different stages? We have collected the information. Is there any particular precautions? Is there any particular precautions you have taken? We have learned in the pretest how the pretest is conducted. What are the objectives? How the objectives are constructed? Right from the objectives until the in the collection of information, any particular practical difficulties we have faced, very particular stage, whatsoever the information which was obtained, we can prepare a notes and we can give a report at the end, which includes the results of the survey, also. By furnishing the results of the survey, keeping in the point of view of objectives, we have to prepare a particular report, which is very much essential to learn and identify all kinds of each and every, from all corners, from the nook and corners, you have to give your report what actually did at ground level, and what are the steps which we have considered to define the objectives, to define the population to be sampled, or to construct a frame, to get the frame, to use the frame, etc. Everything. How to conduct the pretest, what are the precautions you have taken from the pretest, everything. Later on, how you have edited, how you are scrutinized, how you have tabulated the data, and what are the difficulties we have faced in the collection of information from the respondents. What are the problems faced from the respondents, the investigators, how the investigators collected most effectively the data, pros and cons, everything, and at the end, the results. We have to furnish the results of the survey. So these are all the points we have to prepare, with keeping all these points in the report. And we have to, so that you have to prepare a report, a final report, which is going to be submitted to the organization. By explaining different stages, that is called in detail different stages, everything it is going to be prepared in the report. So it is very much useful of representing the types of estimators used, the amount of error to be expected in the most important estimate in the results of the final report. And also we have to, we have to prepare certain statistical techniques. What kind of statistical techniques we have used, how you have estimated the population parameters, what are the estimators are used, how much amount of error is going to be involved, it is expected. So which all should be included in the report, so that it is very useful. It is very useful for the organization. Where went wrong, where did right, what are the pros and cons, how the sample survey was conducted, whether the results are accurate or not. These all can be studied with the help of the report. So this is the summary and analysis of the data. And final, the last point, the information gained for future surveys. You see, just now I have explained the report, the final report of the statistical sample survey, a sample survey, the final report of a sample survey. There we have furnished each and every point of in conducting the sample survey. Now you see, such kind of report, that is any successful completed survey, will be helpful in designing the future surveys constructively. If we want to do any other kind of survey which relates to this particular survey, which is similar to this kind of survey, then obviously the future surveys definitely take some particular points, and the previous surveys, already conducted surveys, the report of the conducted surveys will be more useful, or simply serve as a guide to the future surveys. In designing the future surveys, in conducting the future surveys most constructively, the organizers of the survey can be learned the guidelines for future surveys in recognizing and rectifying the mistakes committed in the execution for the surveys. This is also one of the very important information for the future survey. Organizers, whoever the organizers, they can learn some guidelines for future surveys. If we want to conduct some particular future survey, the organizers of the survey definitely learn what are the mistakes. We can rectify the mistakes. We can recognize the mistakes in the already executed surveys, in the already completed surveys. What are the mistakes which can be recognized, which can be rectified in executing the future surveys? If we want to do the future, any particular survey in future, then we can recognize the mistakes and we can rectify the mistakes which were done in the previous surveys. So therefore, it will more helpful. That is already completed surveys, the report of the completed surveys are very much useful in recognizing and rectifying the mistakes which are committed in the execution of the survey, in conducting the surveys. Another important point, the data relating to the means, standard deviations, the nature of the variability, etc. of the completed sample surveys will be more useful, and also it can be treated as a potential guide for improvements, for improving the future sample surveys. And in the sampling, in the methods of sampling, these are more useful, and they guides the data of the mean, standard deviations, etc., variability, etc., will guide maybe potentially guide in the future surveys of considering the sampling techniques, sampling methods, and what kind of sampling methods are going to be considered relating to calculate the means, standard deviations, variability, measuring the variability, etc., and estimating the parameters as well. What kind of techniques can be considered, can be drawn, will be used, are going to be used. These are all can be obtained, all can be used, simply obtained in simple fashion by taking the report of the previous surveys, and which guide the future survey, which will be more useful for conducting the any kind of surveys in future. For future surveys, therefore, for future surveys, the report, the information which was provided from the previous surveys which were already conducted, which will be potentially guide for the future samples, for conducting the future sample surveys in all these aspects, to design the future survey, to rectify the mistakes in the previous surveys, what are the mistakes, which how to overcome it, how to rectify it, and what are the means, standard deviations, and what are the variables we can calculate by using the sampling techniques, which sampling technique provide these the best, which kinds of measures we can calculate from which kind of suitable sampling techniques, methods. So these are all will be very useful, any kind of already conducted sample surveys definitely guide the future sample surveys. Thank you very much.